Have you ever wondered why a woman can look at you once and already know things you haven't even realized about yourself? It's unsettling when you think about it. You walk into a room, maybe you're adjusting your shirt or glancing around for a place to sit, and before you've said a single word, she has already formed an opinion of you, not just about whether you're attractive or not, but about the way you carry yourself, the way you hold your ground, the way you either radiate confidence or try to hide insecurity. And here's the brutal truth: women are trained almost instinctively to pick up these details faster than you, while you're still figuring out how you come across. She's already made her judgment. Think about the last time you were out with friends. Maybe you were joking around. Maybe you were trying to impress. Maybe you were quiet, staying in the background. What you didn't notice was that the woman across the room was watching how your friends responded to you. She wasn't just looking at your face or your clothes. She was studying the hierarchy in the group, whether people listened when you spoke, whether you took the lead or stayed quiet, whether your presence demanded attention or dissolved into the noise. To her, this tells her everything about how you live outside that moment. Here's what most men don't understand. Women don't need you to confess who you are. They can see it in your micro behaviors. The way you check your phone too often, signaling nervousness. The way you avoid eye contact when another man enters the room, suggesting you defer easily. Or the opposite, the way you lean back. The way you stay unshaken when someone challenges you. The calmness in your silence. These are signals you don't even realize you're broadcasting, and women notice them instantly. Let's get real with an example. Imagine you're on a first date. You think the conversation is going fine, but she notices you rambling, filling silence because you're afraid of losing her interest. You don't even realize you're doing it. To her, it reads as insecurity, as desperation to please. She may smile politely, she may even keep the conversation going, but in her mind, she's already made a note. He can't hold the silence. He needs me to validate him. And that single observation puts you at a disadvantage, because now she knows how to push or pull, how to test if you're worth her respect, or flip it. Imagine you're at a bar, leaning casually against the counter. You don't rush to order. You don't scan the room nervously. You let the silence sit heavy. She notices. She sees that you're not grasping for validation. In that moment, without you knowing it, she's already intrigued, because you've communicated something deeper. You belong wherever you are. And women notice belonging more than appearance, more than money, more than any polished line you could throw at them. Here's where it gets tactical. Once you realize that women notice before you do, you have to flip your awareness inward. You have to ask yourself, what am I broadcasting unconsciously? Am I showing neediness by giving too much, too soon, texting her constantly, rearranging my schedule just to fit hers? Because if you are, she sees it instantly and she will test it. The moment you drop everything for her, she knows she doesn't have to invest as much, because you've already given away your value. Instead, you must train yourself to pause before you reply too quickly, before you overshare, before you rush to prove yourself. You need to breathe and ask, does this action make me look centered or needy? The practical move here is to delay, to hold back, not out of manipulation but out of respect for yourself. For example, when she pulls back, her attention takes longer to text, grows colder. You don't chase, you mirror. You match her energy. You show her you are not waiting for her to validate your existence. That's how you break the cycle of unconscious signals that sabotage you. Another real scenario, she makes a subtle dig at you, maybe a playful insult. Most men laugh nervously and accept it, signaling weakness. What should you do instead? You hold your frame. You don't snap back defensively. But you don't reward it with a needy chuckle either. You smirk, you pause, you let her words hang in the air. And in that silence, She realizes she can't control you so easily. That's a sign of strength you didn't even need to verbalize. This is the game you're in, whether you like it or not. She notices first. Always. Your job isn't to memorize lines or tricks. It's to bring awareness to what you're unconsciously radiating, to cut off the signals of insecurity before they betray you, to cultivate calmness, presence, restraint, because those are the things she can't ignore. So I want to ask you this. Have you ever realized too late that your behavior gave away insecurity? Did you ever notice her pulling back right after you overinvested? Or maybe you've seen the opposite. You stayed calm, and she leaned in closer without you saying a word. Which side of that story feels most familiar to you? Share it below. You don't even realize it when it happens. But the smallest actions you take without a single word are the ones that determine whether she feels attraction or dismissal. For example, when you walk into a room and immediately shrink your body, arms crossed, head slightly lowered, you think you're just being casual. But to her, it's obvious you're protecting yourself, trying not to be seen. On the flip side, when you walk in with a relaxed stride, not too rigid, not too loose, and you let your gaze move slowly across the space, she notices. That simple act says you are comfortable in your own skin, and it registers in her mind before you've even spoken. This is why women so often know who you are before you know who you are. They've spent years decoding signals. They notice how men treat them, how men treat others, and they connect patterns quickly. You can't hide who you are behind clever lines or forced confidence, because your unconscious tells on you every single time. That's why some men think women are mystical or unpredictable, because they don't realize how transparent they are being. Think about this. You're sitting at dinner with her. The waiter comes by, and you treat him with impatience or indifference. You don't think much of it, you're just tired. You're just distracted, but she sees it. And in her mind, she registers if this is how he treats someone he doesn't need to impress. Then this is who he really is. That one small moment, unnoticed by you, now defines her perception of you. The same goes for your reactions under pressure. Maybe she teases you lightly about something: your shirt, your haircut, the way you ordered. If you immediately defend yourself, explain, or laugh nervously, you think you're smoothing things over. But she's not fooled. What she sees is how quickly you bend under tension. What she reads is, he can't handle pressure without needing approval. And once she has that read on you, it's almost impossible to undo. Now, here's where the trap comes in. When you sense her pulling back, she's quieter. She's giving shorter responses. Your instinct as a man is often to lean in harder. You text more. You ask if something's wrong. You try to buy back her attention with more effort. And what happens? She notices your desperation even before you do. The more you chase, the less she respects you, because in her mind, she has already confirmed that your value depends on her response. And once she knows that, the balance is lost. So how do you stop that cycle? You learn to hold back your reflex. You notice your own urge to fix, to chase, to please, and you don't act on it. Instead, you create space. When she gets distant, you don't fill the gap with noise. You let her distance stay hers. That restraint is powerful because it shows her you are not rattled by her withdrawal. That's the test most men fail, and the test that women are always running, whether they admit it or not. Let me give you a scenario. You're texting her. She takes hours to reply. Most men will immediately text again, trying to keep her attention alive. But the tactical move: you don't send another text. You don't panic. You wait. And when you finally do reply, it's measured, calm, as if her delay never disrupted you. That single move rewrites the power dynamic. It says you are not sitting around waiting for her. And when she senses that, she has to come toward you to re-establish balance. Another scenario, you're out with her, and another man enters the picture, maybe a waiter with charm, maybe a guy passing by with confidence. She glances, even briefly. How do you respond if you stiffen, if you make a subtle face, if you try to grab her attention back? You've already lost. She noticed your insecurity before you did. The move is silence, detachment. You don't even flinch, because the man who doesn't compete speaks louder than the man who tries to win her back. Women are constantly searching for the man who cannot be easily shaken, the man who doesn't fold, who doesn't rush, who doesn't crumble under silence. They don't just want your charm, they want your stability. And the tragedy is that most men destroy their own stability without realizing it by giving too much, by reacting too fast, by trying too hard. The truth is simple, but it's brutal. She notices what you can't control about yourself. That's why you must train control, not fake dominance, not arrogant displays, but calm, consistent restraint. When you master that, you become the man she can't predict. And unpredictability in strength is the deepest kind of attraction. So let me ask you this. Have you ever ruined a connection by chasing too quickly when she pulled back? Have you ever looked back and realized she saw your weakness before you even noticed it yourself? Or maybe you've held your ground once, and her behavior shifted instantly. Which one describes you better? Be honest in the comments. Most men believe women are paying attention to their words, but in reality, what she notices are the things you never think about: the unconscious tics, the subtle reactions, the energy you radiate when you're not trying to impress. That's why you've probably felt confused before you thought the date went fine, but she suddenly lost interest. Or you thought you were just being nice, but she stopped respecting you. It wasn't the things you said, it was the things you revealed without knowing. Here's the uncomfortable truth: women are hunters of subtlety. They pick up on the rhythm of your breathing when you're nervous. They notice when your laugh is real and when it's forced. They feel the difference between a man who touches her arm because he wants to, and a man who touches her arm because he hopes it will win her over. She doesn't need to analyze it consciously. It hits her gut instantly. Picture this: you're out at a cafe with her. The conversation flows, but every time there's a pause, you reach for your phone, check the screen, or fidget with your cup. You think you're just passing the time, but to her, it screams that you can't sit in silence. And silence, to a woman, is revealing. The man who can hold silence calmly is the man who doesn't need approval. The man who can't hold it, she knows he'll break the moment she withholds her attention. That one detail, something you didn't even realize, shifts her perception of you. Or think about this scenario: you're at a party with her, and someone makes a joke at your expense. You laugh along with everyone else, not wanting to seem uptight. But she notices the flicker in your expression, the way your smile strains, the way your posture tightens for just a second. You didn't even catch it, but she did. And in that moment, she knows exactly how fragile your self-image is. This is where the real danger lies. Once she identifies your weak points, she has leverage, not always maliciously, sometimes unconsciously, but leverage nonetheless. She knows she can pull back her attention to see if you'll chase. She knows she can make a teasing remark to watch if you'll fold. She knows she can go cold for a day just to see if you'll panic. And if you fail those tests, you don't just lose her attraction, you lose her respect. The key isn't to play her game harder. The key is to stop broadcasting weakness in the first place. That means training yourself to be aware of your unconscious signals. If you tend to overshare too quickly, slow yourself down. If you ramble in silence, practice holding your words back. If you text instantly every time she replies, pause. Every one of these actions is a muscle, and when you strengthen that muscle, she can't read you so easily. Here's a tactical example. She withdraws suddenly. You feel the urge to ask, is something wrong, or to send multiple texts. That urge is the trap. Instead, you don't respond at all. You give her silence. You show her that her withdrawal does not destabilize you. That one move, holding steady, flips the power. Because now she realizes she can't control you with absence. She has to step forward if she wants to re-engage. Another example, she teases you about not being as ambitious as some other guy she knows. Most men will instantly defend themselves, list their accomplishments, or try to outshine the imaginary rival. That's the wrong move. What you do instead is smirk. Hold eye contact and let the comment hang. No defense, no explanation. That silence tells her you're not shaken by comparison. And that is infinitely more powerful than any speech about your achievements. This isn't about being cold or manipulative. It's about mastering yourself so completely that nothing she notices can be used against you. The moment you stop leaking insecurity, you become unreadable. And an unreadable man is a challenge. A man who doesn't crack under pressure becomes magnetic, not because he's loud or flashy, but because he radiates something rare, quiet strength. And here's the part most men don't want to hear. Women don't always want to destroy your confidence, but they will always test it. Not because they're cruel, but because they're wired to seek the man who can withstand storms. Attraction is survival to them. If you crumble under small pressure, she knows you won't last under real pressure. And that realization is what kills her interest faster than anything. So, ask yourself right now, how many times have you betrayed yourself without knowing it? How many times did you try too hard, defend too quickly, or react too nervously? Can you remember the moment you felt her pull away, and deep down, you knew it was because she saw something in you that you didn't share your story? I guarantee you're not the only one who's lived it. She notices your hunger long before you realize you're even showing it. That hunger can be for her validation, her attention, her affection, her approval. You think you're hiding it behind polite words, smiles, or carefully planned gestures. But to her, it leaks out everywhere through the way your eyes linger too long, the way you answer her messages instantly, the way you offer too much of yourself before she's even earned it. And once she senses it, the balance shifts, because hunger, no matter how subtle, tells her that she holds the power. Imagine this, you've only been seeing her for a couple of weeks. She texts you late at night, saying she's bored. Without thinking, you drop everything, even though you had plans, even though you were tired, and you rush to entertain her. To you, it feels like effort, like being caring. To her, it feels like weakness, not because she doesn't appreciate your attention, but because she knows already that she can bend you, that she doesn't need to fight for your time because you'll give it no matter what. And once she knows that, the mystery is gone. Or think about the man who constantly reassures her. He says things like, "Are you okay? Did I do something wrong? Do you still like me?" He believes he's being open, transparent, honest. But what she hears is the cry of insecurity. She reads it instantly, like a flashing sign above his head. I'm afraid of losing you. And here's the paradox: when you show that fear, you accelerate the very loss you're trying to prevent. Because no woman wants to feel like she is a man's oxygen tank, keeping him alive by giving constant reassurance. The tactic to break this is brutal, but freeing you must stop giving before she has earned it. That doesn't mean being cold or manipulative. It means understanding that your time, your energy, your emotional investment are valuable resources. You don't hand them over because she smiled at you twice. You don't rearrange your life for a woman who hasn't shown you loyalty. You don't give your heart to someone who hasn't proven she can protect it. Every time you hold back until it's earned, you silently communicate strength. And women notice that too. Here's another layer most men don't see. Women pay close attention to how you handle other women's attention. If you light up instantly when a random woman gives you a compliment, if you fumble when you get unexpected validation, she notices. Because in her mind, that means you're starved for it. And a man starved for validation will always give away his power. But when you take it in stride, when you don't make it a big deal, when you remain steady as if you expect respect wherever you go that tells her you're not desperate, you're in control. Let me give you a practical scenario. She pulls back for a few days. Your instinct is to double down, text more, ask questions, maybe even get frustrated. But the tactical move, you mirror. She invests less. You invest less. You let the silence stretch without fear. And when she notices that her absence doesn't shake you, she has to reevaluate. Because now you've shown her something rare. You don't chase what runs. You attract what wants to stay. Or imagine she tries to test you by making a subtle comparison. My ex used to take me to nicer places, or my friend's boyfriend always buys her flowers. Most men crumble here, rushing to prove they're good enough, rushing to compete. But the man who doesn't flinch, the man who smiles and shrugs and doesn't race to meet the imaginary standard, he becomes unforgettable. Because she realizes she can't guilt him into performance. He lives on his own terms, not hers. That's power. Understand this, women respect boundaries more than they respect generosity. Any man can give gifts, send long messages, rearrange his schedule. That's easy. What's rare is the man who can say no, the man who doesn't bend just because she pouts, the man who values himself enough to walk away if the respect isn't mutual. And here's the catch: she notices that strength before you even realize you're showing it. The moment you calmly refuse to be bent, you separate yourself from every other man who's begging for approval. The deeper truth is this: you don't need to convince her of your value. She sees it or she doesn't based on the signals you radiate in silence. That's why self-mastery is everything. Not the loudest voice in the room, not the biggest promises, but the ability to remain centered when tested, unshaken when ignored, calm when challenged. She will notice it, and it will speak louder than anything you could ever say. So now I want you to think, how many times have you given too much, too soon, and felt her pull away afterward? How often have you tried to prove your worth when she compared you, instead of letting the comment die in silence? And can you remember a moment when you finally said no and saw the shift in her eyes? Share it with me below. She notices your center or your lack of it before you do. The way you walk into her world tells her if she's dealing with a man who owns himself or a man who bends without realizing. You think you're being kind, flexible, accommodating, but she reads it as instability, because when a man has no center, a woman feels it immediately, like a table with one loose leg. It wobbles no matter how much weight you put on it. And the truth is, women can't trust a man who wobbles. Let me paint the picture. You're planning a date. She asks where you want to go. You say, I don't mind, wherever you want. You think you're being easygoing, letting her choose. But what she hears is, I can't decide. I don't lead. In that one simple moment, she's already noticed your lack of direction. And it kills attraction faster than anything, because women aren't drawn to men who dissolve into their decisions. They're drawn to men who anchor. Now flip it. You tell her, we'll meet at 8. I know a quiet place you'll like. You're not over-explaining. You're not begging for approval, you're setting the frame. Instantly, she notices. She feels grounded, even if she doesn't love the choice. She respects that you made one, because the man who can lead calmly and without arrogance speaks to something primal in her. She notices it in seconds, before you realize the power of your own clarity. Here's the psychological trap many men think leadership is about control or dominance. It's not. It's about stability. It's about showing that your world doesn't shake depending on her moods. Most men fail here because they adjust constantly to please. When she's warm, they open up fully. When she's cold, they panic and scramble to get her back. But what she notices in those moments is this: he is tethered to me. His center is in me, not in himself. And that's when she knows she can move him at will. Practical example: you're in a disagreement. She throws out, "Maybe this isn't working." A man without a center will panic, rush to fix, beg for another chance. A man with a center will remain calm and say, "If that's how you feel, I won't stop you." Which man do you think she'll respect more? Which one do you think she'll test again? She notices the difference before you even process your own reaction. Another scenario: you're at dinner. She suddenly goes quiet, scrolling her phone. Most men feel the need to entertain, to fill the space, to win her attention back. That's the man without a center one who reacts to her behavior instead of staying grounded. But the man with a center, he simply eats, calm, present, unmoved. And in that silence, she feels it. She can't drag him off his axis. That feeling both unsettles her and draws her closer. Because women notice when a man belongs to himself more than to them. This is why self-possession is the strongest signal you can ever radiate. A woman may be attracted to looks, money, charm, but respect, real respect, only comes when she sees that nothing moves you from your frame. You don't break under silence. You don't bend under teasing. You don't rush to prove yourself when challenged. And once she notices that, she knows she's dealing with a man who is rare. The practical application is this: before you act, ask yourself, am I reacting to her, or am I acting from myself? That one question will save you from the unconscious slips that sabotage you. If you're texting because you feel anxious she might forget you, you're reacting. If you're changing your plans because you're afraid she'll be disappointed, you're reacting. But if you're moving from your own choice, calm, steady, unapologetic, then you're leading. And she notices. Always. Here's the final truth you can't escape. Women notice your strength in silence more than your strength in words. You don't need to say you're confident. They feel it when you don't flinch. You don't need to say you're valuable. They see it when you don't give too much too soon. You don't need to declare your boundaries. They know them the moment you walk away from disrespect. And that's why women often know the man you are before you've even figured it out yourself. So now I'll ask you, how many times have you given away your center by trying too hard to please? Can you remember the moment she pulled away? Not because of what you said, but because she noticed you had no ground under your feet. And have you ever stood so firm in your silence that she leaned in without you lifting a finger? Share your story in the comments, I want to hear it. She didn't break you. She revealed what you were too afraid to protect.